Hello and welcome to today's Office Hours presentation. This is your host, Paul Hoyt. Our Office Hours presentation is a relaxed informal mentoring program for tribe members that we do every Monday at noon Pacific time. The recordings and slides and exercises are archived in the members area of our website. The reasons we do these is because we know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it's really tough. You need support in order to be successful, and we want you to get to know us, because when you get to know us, you will know that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to be successful in every area of life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity that's within you, yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day as we try to do. Our passion is helping entrepreneurs and small business owners get clear and stay focused so that they can grow faster. And today's topic is focused on, the most challenged of all of them, and that is micro businesses. Because being small can be very tough, as we'll outline in the conversation today. We also try to relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the key performance areas of success that I defined in my 2004 book, The Foundation Factor. And the day is all about leadership. It's about recognizing the challenges of micro businesses, especially if you have a micro business, and stepping up to it and taking 100% responsibility for meeting the challenges that you face. And with the Awaken CEO system, we talk about how important it is to focus on 3 different areas of growth and 3 different levels of performance. Talk about business growth and professional growth and personal growth and how they are all interrelated. And I would say especially at a micro business or a very small business, and how important it is for you to function extremely well on the levels of mindset and methods and momentum. And today specifically, we're going to talk about these 6 of those 9 areas. We're going to talk about mindset in each of the areas of growth, and we're going to talk about methods in each of the areas of growth as well. In today's conversation, we're going to talk about what is a small business and then what is a micro business. We're going to talk about small business challenges and micro business challenges. And then we're going to offer some homework and some exercises for you so that you can take some steps in improving your business based upon today's conversation. First, what is a small business? Well, as it turns out, the definition really varies by country, and here in the United States specifically, it varies by industry. The Small Business Administration says a small business is generally one with $20 million in revenues or less, and generally less than 500 employees. And I don't know about you, but a company with $20 million in revenue and 500 employees sounds like a medium-sized business to me. That doesn't sound like a small business. But if you're looking at companies that have 50 or 60 or 100,000 employees, well, just having 500 is indeed very, very small. But the SBA defines a small business, and by the way, a company then that's eligible for all of the SBA programs, at $20 million in annual revenues or less than 500 employees generally. However, it does vary by industry. If you're a manufacturer, the rule is 250 employees or less and less than $7 million in annual revenues. I don't really understand why they do that. I think that it would seem like they would want to support manufacturers more than that. So I don't know why that's not 10. I don't know why manufacturing is considered to be a medium-sized business if it's got over $7 million in revenue. Because my guess is that these guidelines were put out before white-collar businesses, information product businesses and service businesses started earning a lot more revenue per employee than do manufacturing businesses in general. And of course, today's manufacturing, when we outsource manufacturing a tremendous amount, it's pretty easy to have $7 million. Well, it's not easy, but it's a lot easier today to have $7 million in revenue. It's a much less complex business than having $7 million in revenue if you have your own manufacturing facilities. So there are some government programs and support for very small businesses, including tax credits in some cases. The government has defined what they call disadvantaged business enterprises, or DBEs, with classifications for minority-based businesses, women-based businesses, hub zone businesses, service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, and just in general, small businesses. And there are a lot of programs. We did an office hours presentation on small business administration, loan programs, and other sort of support programs, maybe 18 months or so ago. And I'll look that up for you if anybody's interested in that. But here's the very interesting thing, and that small businesses, the way that the Small Business Administration defines it, is 98.5% of all businesses in the United States. And actually, I think it's a lot more than that, because I think that there are lots and lots of businesses that never make it to anybody's radar screen and never make it to anybody's list and don't get counted in any way. And that's if you decide that you want to join a multi-level marketing business, or you just decide I'm going to do part-time something on the side. I think that there are, in addition to the 23 million businesses that are classified as small businesses, I'm guessing there's another 20 million, maybe 50 million businesses where it's just somebody working a little part-time and being entrepreneurial and enterprising in some way, but because they don't put it on a Schedule C, because they don't pay taxes, because they don't hire people, that it's just kind of side income, that we don't ever hear about that. So I think in the United States, it may be more like 40 or 50 million of our 350 million citizens who are actually involved in some business endeavor in some way. But we're going to talk specifically today about people who are full-time in their business, or the intention is to become full-time, and they're putting forth a considerable amount of time and money and effort when it comes to growing their business. So if that's what a small business is, then what is a micro business? Well, a micro business is commonly a business with 5 or fewer employees, and many, many micro businesses are solopreneurs, when there are a bunch of us. As I mentioned before, 23 million small businesses and micro businesses in the United States in 2013. And by the way, that's businesses with less than 50 employees. There were 23 million of them. And it's 75% of all businesses in the United States with 50 employees or less. And as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't count many part-time businesses, network marketing businesses, etc. There are so many businesses out there that if only 1 out of 3 micropreneur businesses or micro enterprises in the United States hired an additional employee, we would be absolutely at full employment. That would mean 8 million new jobs, and that would put us at tremendous full employment. So I think it's a really good idea to focus on supporting micro businesses, because there are so many of them out there. And there are a lot of ways to get support. Local chambers of commerce, the Small Business Administration, the Association for Enterprise Opportunity, and Micro Enterprise Networks, enterpriseworks.org. And there's also an organization called the National Association for Self-Employed, NASE, but that's an extension of an insurance company, and I encourage you to exercise somewhat caution whenever you go take a look at those. It's been my pleasure to be a member of several different chambers of commerce and to work with the Small Business Administration in one of their outreaches. They have several different outreaches. One of them is SCORE, which is Senior Corp of the Retired Executives, I believe. And then there's the Small Business Development Centers, SBDCs, which I've been a member of a board of director of one of those. So they do have some really nice programs. And I'm a big fan of chambers of commerce too. If you're not a member of your local chamber of commerce, I strongly encourage you to check out the programs, because when I was on the board of directors of a chamber of commerce, we had, the same thing that we saw in the statistics earlier. I think it was 85% of all of our members had 5 or fewer employees. They were a micro business by my definition of micro businesses. Well, small businesses have a lot of challenges. Right-sizing the business is really, really a challenge for a lot of small businesses, and right-sizing means having a business that fits the capability and the lifestyle requirement of the owner so that they can be profitable, scalable, and sustainable. Not necessarily scalable, but sustainable. Right-sizing the business with just the right prices, just the right number of customers, just the right number of employees, and having those employees in the right seats in the bus, so to speak, is really a challenge. It's always a challenge to get education and training because the United States does a really lousy job of teaching people how to run a small business. Getting top-level mentorship, finding people who can get on your team who really do care about you, who really know what they're doing, and who aren't just out to take your next $5,000, $10,000, and $30,000 and then kind of, kick you out of the bus and wish you well on your own way. That's tough to find, people who really do care and really are knowledgeable. And I think one of the biggest challenges is what I call the inner journey of business. We're going to talk a lot more about stress of small businesses here as we get on with our conversation today. But the inner journey, your mind game, keeping your heads on straight while you are trying to figure all this stuff out and while you are trying to deal with the challenges and the obstacles and the problems that come up in business, I think is the number one challenge in business. Micro businesses have even greater challenges than that. So first big challenge of micro businesses is in the area of sales. 90%, I believe at least 90% of all people who start out to have their own business in some way are undertrained in sales. Some of them may not have any sales experience at all. Some of them might not believe that sales is even important at all. And some of them might even have disdain for the salespeople. I know, and this is true confessions time, when I started my first business in 1980, I had what I would consider to be a negative attitude towards salespeople. I thought that, that it was only the people who weren't very good in math and science. Those were the people that went into sales because they couldn't do the STEM work. They couldn't do the science, the technology, the engineering, or the math. So they went into sales. It was an arrogant and absolutely wrong perspective. I was trying to protect myself by building myself up, and it was just absolutely wrong. As it turns out, sales is an incredibly valuable profession, and it takes tremendous amount of emotional intelligence and cognitive intelligence in order to be effective in sales. And most people who start businesses are very, very undertrained and very inexperienced when it comes to sales, and that becomes a huge, huge challenge for them. Financial management is the same way. Most of them are very undertrained in financial management. And it turns out you can get a high school degree and a college degree without any sales training and without any accounting training or bookkeeping training whatsoever. You can work for 30, 40, 50 years in a corporate environment and not have any sales and training or financial management training. So most people who start a small business are very undertrained in those areas. With a small business, especially a micro business, there's a tremendous challenge with the overhead because there's really not much economy of scale. You don't get a chance to spread your office expenses out amongst a dozen or 2 dozen or 50 employees. You don't get a chance to spread the cost of a fax machine or a refrigerator or any of the other overhead items that you have across a very large pool of employees or contractors. So overhead and managing your overhead and keeping your overhead down is incredibly challenging for micro businesses. Insurances and other business, sometimes you can't even get insurance. Sometimes benefits cost too much, especially things like health insurance. Legal challenges are a tremendous amount in small businesses too, especially micro businesses. If you have $1 million in revenue, paying that $20,000 legal bill is, it's a cost of doing business and you don't like it. But, if you got $1 million in revenue per year, you're probably having $100,000 a month in profit, I hope, maybe $200,000, maybe even $300,000 a month in profit. And a $20,000 legal bill doesn't really hurt you that much. But if you're a $100,000 a year business with only 1 or 2 businesses and you're running a $20,000 or a $15,000 or a $10,000 a month profit, you get a legal bill for $20,000 and oh my goodness, that's ate up 2 months of your own personal income, and it's a huge challenge. And funding can be a challenge too. So banks like to deal with businesses who have $250,000, $500,000, $1 million a year or more in revenues. Private money lenders and equity investors like to deal with businesses who are large and growing rapidly so that they can get a very good return on their investment. So funding can be a tremendous challenge for micro businesses. And as we mentioned before, there's lots of personal challenges that go along with micro businesses too. Having a good, stellar work environment can be very challenging. I remember when I had my first business from 1980 through 1985, I tried working at home for about 3 or 4 months before I realized that having 2 little kids at home and working from home didn't work. So I had rented an office space in my 3rd year of business and rented an office space, and I was a lot more productive when I was working outside the physical proximity of my home. Now I have an office in my home, and it works really well because I don't have any little kiddos running around and not a lot of interruptions during the day. But establishing a really good, healthy, productive, efficient work environment can be a huge challenge for micro businesses. Downtime can be a huge challenge. A lot of micro business owners go for years and years without taking a vacation. They're working 70, 80 hours a week, and downtime to them means I stopped working on Saturday at 5 o'clock and went out to dinner with my spouse or my partner in some way. Downtime can be a tremendous problem, which means that there's oftentimes a lot of buildup of stress. There's financial challenges with it. There's all kinds of challenges with doing things that we've never had to do before, and we're alone in that. We may feel alone and may feel like we're terribly unsupported. As we start to grow our team, we can have team challenges, and especially with regards to division of responsibility and specialization. I want to talk about this in a little more detail here. Because when you have a business, a product business that has, just say, 10 employees at it, in that business you might have yourself as being the CEO and the leader of that business. You probably don't have a full-time person in marketing because we typically outsource marketing for very small businesses. You might have as many as 3 different people at that business focused on sales. One person being an accountant and a bookkeeper, another person being focused as kind of an office manager or focused on operations, a couple of people developing products, and a couple of people providing services. That's a fairly typical specialization at a company with 10 people if it's a product-oriented business. If it's a service business, you still have the same 10 people, but the distribution is a little bit different. You have 6 people in service. You don't have as many people or any people in product development. You may not have as many people in sales. General rule of thumb, by the way, in a service business is that 1 salesperson and 1 leader of the business ought to be able to sell the services as up to 10 different consultants and service providers. So let's say that you have a service business to where you're a painter, and you might have 2 crews, but you got 1 person selling the services of 2 crews. Or you're a roofer and you've got 1 crew with 8 people on it. Well, you've got a crew chief, and you've got the 6 or 7 worker bees, and you've got the bookkeeper back in the home office, and you've got the leader / salesperson. But that's generally the way it divides out. What this allows you to do is have specialization. The people focused on service can just be focused on service. They don't have to worry about sales. The people who are focused on sales can just be focused on sales. That's what they do from the time that they get into the office in the morning or into the time that they leave, and after hours and on weekends, etc. The bookkeeper can just be focused on doing the books. They don't have to worry about those other areas of business. They don't have to be competent in those other areas of business. But when you're a soloist and there is nobody else, and you're the leader, you're also in charge of marketing, you're also in charge of sales, you're in charge of financial management, you're in charge of operations, you're in charge of product development, you're in charge of customer service. You have to do all of that stuff. And it takes a lot more training and education and focus in order to be a jack of all trades, which is what you have to be. And the other half of that is usually a jack of all trades and a master of none. That, by the way, is not what I see in small businesses. What I see is people struggling to be a jack of all trades, and they really are good at some things. They're just not good at everything. The jack of all trades challenge is that you have to be competent, at least competent, in all of the key performance areas of business. But there's very few education and training programs out there. As we mentioned, we don't teach this stuff in high school and colleges. And your corporate experience is not enough. You can't depend on getting enough education and experience and even mentorship through our traditional education programs or through corporate experience. But to me, one of the biggest challenges with being a jack of all trades, with having a micro business, is what I call the mindset shifting challenge throughout the day. So first thing in the morning, you might be in leadership mode where we're planning out our day, we're reviewing all of our pipeline, we're reviewing all the list of things that we have to do, the calls that we need to make for the day, and we're planning our day. Well, that's leadership. And then you might go into sales mode because you're picking up the phone and talking to those prospects. And then maybe you're in service delivery mode because you have an appointment with a client and you're actually serving that account and making money in some way in a service business. Or you're dealing with an operational issue because you've got parts that are coming in from all over the country and from overseas, and you have to deal with that. And at any one time during the day, we may find us taking off the leadership hat and putting on the sales hat, or taking off the sales hat and putting on the bookkeeper's hat, and taking off the bookkeeper's hat and putting on the operations specialist hat. And that is the challenge, is shifting our mindset. You know, in my first few decades of experience, I was in the computer industry. And I was in the early days when we moved from symmetrical multiprocessing, or when we moved from processing single processors to what they call symmetrical multiprocessing, and then into massively parallel machines. And the number one challenge that computer companies had was what they called a context shift, which meant that I was working on this job, but now I'm working on this job. I have to save everything related to this particular program into memory, all my index address registers, all the contents of the memory, all the status of everything, so then I can reload the memory of the machine with everything that's going on over here, the indexed address registers, the pointers, everything that I had to do with this next job, and I can begin to function on that. And we as small business owners, as micro business owners, have to do the same thing. There are, by the way, things that you can do to ease that context shift. You can schedule out your day. You can physically get up from your desk and do something to really trigger yourself into the opportunity you have to put on that different hat. But it is a huge challenge because those key performance areas, you have to be good at every single one of them. You have to be good at leadership. You have to be good at marketing. You have to be good at sales. You have to be good at product development, operations and administration, and customer service. You have to be good at all of that stuff in order to have a successful business. So with a micro business, in addition to being good at all of that stuff, or at least competent at all of that stuff, there are two different mindsets that I want to bring up to you and talk just a little bit about. And one of those is what I call the intentional micro business, which is the business that intends to stay small, is small on purpose, and they really don't want to grow very big at all, and what I call the transitional micro business, where the intention is to grow very, very big. We're only small today because we're just getting started. We're only small today because we haven't hit our stride yet, and that's a lot different than an intentional micro business. An intentional micro business has challenges with financial stability. In fact, that's their number one challenge, is developing a business that is a financially stable business. I oftentimes tell people, you know, they say, what should I focus on whenever I start my business? And I say two things only. First thing is engaging with the marketplace as soon as possible so that you can learn the lessons that only the marketplace can teach you. And secondly is a relentless pursuit of financial stability. If you're an intentional micro business and you intend to stay small, the only way that you can possibly survive is to create a financially stable business. You have to have reasonable profits. You have to focus on having a sustainable business model. And sustainable business model means a business model that survives you. It means that you've got other people on your team that are also earning money, so you can take a little bit of time off so that you can sell the business whenever your time comes to get out of this business and exit. Typically, it means organic growth. It means that we don't have enough money to invest heavily in dramatically growing the business, that we have to grow in increments and a steady growth over time, 10% a year, 20% a year, 30% a year, etc. And we really have to watch out for time and stress management when we intentionally want to stay small, because as we've talked about, you have to wear so many hats, you have to be good at so many things, you don't have a lot of people around to help you solve those problems, face those challenges, overcome those obstacles, etc. Because you want to oftentimes create what I call a lifestyle business. A lifestyle business means a business that is intentionally of a particular size. It could be a micro business with 5 employees or less. It could be a small business with 10, 20, 30, 50 employees. But it allows you to have the lifestyle that you want to have. Maybe you want to work from home. Maybe you want to be able to have a mobile business that allows you to work from wherever you want. I've got people that I know that spend a considerable amount of time in Colombia because they love the environment down there, and because they are a mobile global citizen, because they have a portable business, they have created a business that supports their lifestyle, and they can go wherever they want. They can work from the beach, they can work from the patio, they can work from their second bedroom, they can do whatever they want. They have a lifestyle business. And if it's a big enough lifestyle business, maybe you can take 6 to 8 weeks of vacation per year. You typically can't do that with a micro business, but you can as the business grows. So if you're a micro business and you find yourselves not having the lifestyle that you want, think about taking measures to stop being a soloist in business. Take measures to have business partners and to have 5 or 10 or 15 employees in business so that you can have the lifestyle that you really want. A transitional micro business then is a micro business that is only a micro business for the time being. The intention is that we want to grow very big, and they really have to focus on getting capital in order to fund their growth. The amount that you get really depends upon your speed of growth, but it is a very rare company indeed that is able to grow rapidly and grow very large from their own profits. I've had the pleasure of working with a few companies that are in this category. They're doubling each year. Their margins are very good, and they're able to fund their own growth and rapid growth through the profits in the business. That is extremely rare. 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000 maybe, micro businesses are actually able to grow very rapidly and transition through that micro business stage into having 10 employees, 20 employees, 50 employees just by their own profits. Most of the time they have to borrow money or raise equity capital in some way in order to fund that growth. You also have to, by the way, to spend enough time to focus on that growth. And time, that's time from you, that's time from other people at the company, where you just can't be focused on delivering high quality products and services, that it's not just about selling your service or product and delivering your service and product. It's also about the projects to design and implement and roll out new product and service offerings. And it's about the time necessary to raise capital, etc. It takes a lot of time whenever you're a transitional micro business, and that's one of the big reasons why it takes a lot of capital to grow that. A transitional micro business, the bottom line is that it takes a lot more time and effort. If you could have a stable business at 40, 50, 60 hours a week of effort, but if you're a transitional micro business and your intention is to grow very big, it's going to take you a lot more time than that. It takes more money, and it has a lot more stress involved with that. So here's some homework and some exercises for you. First of all, if you're a very small business or you're a transitional micro business, decide on whether you're intentional or transitional, and pay attention to that. Because again, like I said, if you're an intentionally small business and you want to stay that way, your growth plans are a lot different than if you're a transitional micro business and you want to grow very large. If you want to grow very large, by necessity, it's going to take more capital, and it's going to be more stressful. It's going to require more effort than if you are willing to stay very small and just grow, incrementally over time. I encourage you to identify what your biggest challenge areas are in each of the key performance areas. Find out the areas, and it's likely to be more than one, in which you are the weakest, so that you can focus on shoring that up and building a stronger business through having a better foundation for your business. And that means getting the training and the support that you need. And it also means working on that inner journey, getting your mindset squared away. And speaking of mindset, here with the Awakened CEO system, we oftentimes tell people to focus on that mindset. Have a mindset of business growth. First of all, is understanding whether you're an intentional or a transitional micro business, and understanding from a mindset point of view that each one of those has challenges and opportunities, and understanding what those are. Understanding for your mindset that, especially if you're a micro business, that you have to have a very positive attitude towards learning new things and learning how to do the things that you never even thought that you had to do before. And as always, as we learn to do new things and face new challenges, we run up against personal growth opportunities. Things that scare us, things that piss us off, things that really challenge us emotionally and give us the opportunity, by the way, to gain in emotional intelligence and gain in wisdom by the challenges of our small business. I also encourage you to focus on the methods. The methods of business growth are that we really want to that we want to focus on creating plans for either growing rapidly or not growing rapidly. And on professional growth, we want you to focus on having a plan, a system by which you are learning the things that you need to learn. And on personal growth, have a plan in place, have methods, have coaches, have mentors, have programs in place that allow you to continue with your business. So that's been our agenda today. What is a small business? What is a micro business? Looked at small business challenges and micro business challenges, and we talked a little bit about homework and exercises. There are a lot of office hours that I've done that are related to the topic of today. One of them is on the future of management, number 47. 95, I talked about best practices in staffing. In 103, how to be a great leader, and 119 on conscious business leadership, and 129 was on being an awakened CEO. For those of you who are members of my tribe, there's I think there's like 102 or 3 different presentations like the one that you're seeing today. We've done 150 of them, but 25 of them or so have been repeats of previous office hours, and another 25 have been just live group coaching that did not have a theme to them. But there's a whole bunch of information out there. There's 5 of them that if you want to follow up on that and follow up on addressing the challenges of having a micro business, here's some good ones. Oh yes, and number 135, taking complete responsibility. As I mentioned earlier, it's your responsibility as the leader of your business to take complete responsibility for everything that's happening. Anything that happens in marketing, sales, financial management, etc. You're the person who has to deal with it. You're the person who has to make sure that the job gets done. Again, that doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself, but it does mean that you have to make sure that the job gets done. I want to jump in and take a little questions and answers and see if we can have some discussion topics. First of all, comments and questions on any topic that you want, but we'll start out with the topic of the day, micro business challenges and small business challenges. Steffi, I'm joined today again by the lovely Stephanie May. Do we have any questions or discussion topics for today?
Yeah, we do. We got a couple here.
Awesome.
Okay, first one. You ready?
I am ready.
How do you know if your business should stay micro or scale it up? I feel like my mission is bigger than my desire to have a business of that size, she says.
I'm going to take that as 2 separate questions. So question 1 is, how do we know whether the business can stay this size or scale up? There are some business models that work really well with only 2 or 3 or 4 employees, And there's some business models that don't work that well at all. Classic example would be a company that requires some level of capital equipment. You know, if you have to buy trucks and you have to buy machinery and you have to buy other kinds of things in order to actually do your job, it becomes a capital intensive business. That means you have a lot of overhead expenses, and you have to allocate that overhead amongst a lot of employees. It doesn't work for one guy to have a $500,000 machine that he has to pay off at $100,000 a year most of the time. That $500,000 machine needs to support 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 employees, because you have to allocate that. So your business model might work really well with just 1 or 2 people in the business, but it might not, depending upon whether it's a capital intensive business, or, for example, it's a business with a real long ramp-up time that you're never going to be able to recover your startup costs unless you build a business of a particular size. So, a coaching business model, selling roses by the street corner, you can do no capital equipment, no investment in overhead that has to be allocated across multiple revenue streams. It doesn't take very long at all, no training and education requirement really to get going on those. A few hours, maybe a few weeks if you want to have a good training as a coach. But generally those are pretty easy, and that business model works very well for small businesses. The other question is, how do I know can I do what I really want to do? Which brings me back to a presentation I did, I don't remember if I did it last summer or before then, on the C's of growing business. Most people go into business for one of 4 reasons that all start with the letter C. And the first one is control. They don't want to be in a position of not being their own boss. They want to be their own boss. They want to control their business. They don't want somebody to tell them when they have to come into work. They don't want somebody telling them that they have to work on Christmas Day. They don't want somebody saying, I'm sorry, we've cut your compensation program by 30 or 40%. Or they don't want to work for people that they don't want to work with. They want control. That's the number one thing about business. Number 2 is creativity. They've got ideas in their heads, and they just can't bring those ideas into fruition, into realization in the world when they're working for somebody else. So they want to be creative. Reason number 3 is cash. They see the opportunity to make a lot of money working for themselves, and they realize, I'm never going to make $1 million a year being an employee at a business. So the only way I'm going to be able to fulfill my desire for massive amounts of money is to have my own business. Then the 4th one, which is the reason why I brought it up with this question, is a calling. Some people just have a calling. I am moved to help small business owners. I am moved to tell people about the greatness that they have within. I am moved to help children get a better education. I am moved to have foster parents have a better fostering experience. I am moved to help singles, find a partner more than they are. And it's a very big calling. It's just not enough to help 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 people. They want to help tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of people. And if you have that kind of calling, if you are called to help a lot of people, then you can't satisfy that calling in a micro business. If you are called to be a billionaire, you can't satisfy that calling with a micro business. You can be in control, you can be creative, and you can get a little cash. You're not going to make millions of dollars typically with a micro business, but you can make tens of thousands or $100,000 with a micro business. But if your calling is a very large calling, then you can't do that with a micro business. So that's how we know. Really understand your why of business. Am I doing this because I just want to be my own boss? Am I doing this because I've got a lot of great ideas and I absolutely have to see them realized in the marketplace? Am I doing this because I want to make a lot of money for myself and my family and my kids and my grandkids? Or am I doing this because, I had a vision and Jesus or Mother Mary came down and said, Paul, go do this. And I have talked to a lot of people that had similar experiences in that. So I think the key is here is understanding your why and then adjusting your business model so that it fits the purpose that you're in business for yourself. I hope that was helpful. Next question, Steffi.
All right. Here's one from Michael. How do you determine the biggest challenge? When starting a transitional business, sales is important, as is financial stability, or is it something else, as everything can be a challenge?
Well, certainly you hit it right in that everything is the challenge. One of the phrases you'll often hear me say is that when you're at a small business, especially one that's rapidly growing, everything is broke. Everything is broke, because typically all the systems and processes and procedures that you have in place, my general rule of thumb, they can generally scale up about 25% or 50% without having some dramatic overhaul of that system. But if you're doubling every year, it's everything that's going to be broke. Your bookkeeping is going to need to be updated. The way that you develop and products and introduce them to the marketplace is going to need to be updated. Your approach to selling in that environment, everything is broke at a small business. So there are a lot of challenges. The way that I would suggest that we answer that is to figure out what it is that you want to do. What is your growth objectives and goals for this year, and then for this 6 months, and then especially for these next 3 months. And that becomes the focus of your attention, and we gather resources and we allocate our time and our energy towards meeting the company goals for the next 90 days. For some companies, you can meet the 90-day goals without raising capital at all. In fact, maybe that's what you want to do, is that I'm just beginning to design the product. So I'm going to do concept tests, and I'm going to personally interview 60 or 100 people who I think might be my clients, and I'm going to roll that out. And then the challenge isn't really funding, unless you need funding, emergency funding, to take care of your own personal financial needs while you go through that product development phase of your business. But you don't need the funds to actually develop the products, or to order 10,000 units from China, or to have a huge office. You just need a much smaller amount of funding to keep your body and soul together while you're doing your initial market research. So the biggest challenge that a company faces is the challenge of meeting their 90-day goals, of defining those top 3 to 5 goals, and then gathering the resources necessary to actually complete the plan of meeting those goals, and then focusing the time and attention necessary from ourselves and from other people on those goals. And that's the way that I like to approach it. Because for some companies it's funding, for some companies it's getting in touch with the marketplace, for some companies it's actually doing the operations. We have the funding in place now, and now we need to order the product and get that in from overseas. So it might be sourcing, or determining what your supplies are, or determining who your business partners are. It really depends on your phase of growth and what you want to accomplish in the next 90 days. And by the way, that's what I love to do. I love to help people determine that. And I'm going to take a break for just a second, and we're going to talk about that. Our next office hours is on February 27th. It's going to be on live group coaching, because I am out of the office for the last 3 days of this week, and so I won't be preparing any presentation. We're just going to do open questions and answers next Monday, February the 27th. Let me know what topics that you'd like to address, or certainly send in questions ahead of time to paulsurvey.com, or just to my email packet or email address. We're still running the special on the No BS Business Growth Package, which is 4 90-minute consulting sessions. The first one's on the Business Clarity Questionnaire, where we define what your business is, why you're in business, and begin to take some steps to determine what it is that you need to do to move forward in your business. Then we do a long-term strategic plan with our phased growth strategy in session number 2. We do a business foundation profile, which is a classic gap analysis to understand where you are in your competence and your performance in each of the 7 key performance areas of business. And then we finish it up with a 90-day growth plan. And this will tell us what the biggest challenge is right now. It's what do we need to focus on in order to meet these 90-day growth objectives that fulfill the mission of the business and the long-term growth strategy of the business. This no BS business growth package is usually $1,500, but that's not the price that you're going to pay. The price that you pay honestly varies depending upon how much free time I have in my schedule, how much free time Stephanie has in her schedule. So you got to give us a call to find out what specials and discounts we are running today. Anyway, whatever it turns out to be, it comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. If we get through the first session and you decide you don't want to continue, we'll give you a complete refund. And if you get through the entire program and you decide that it wasn't worth every single penny that you paid for it, just let us know and we'll let you set the price. We'll let you decide that this was only worth, $1,200, or maybe what I get from a lot of people, by the way, is it's worth 10 times as much as they paid for it. They're burning through their own cash at $5,000 a month, and by going through this program that took 2 or 3 months off of their growth curve and saved them $10,000 because they got very clear and because they got very focused, so they could grow faster. And growing faster, by the way, means that you don't have to burn through as much cash in growing your business. So if you're burning through cash to take care of your personal financial needs, if you're burning through cash to support the overhead of the business, then anything that you can do to accelerate the growth of your business pays off in very, very large ways. And that's why we decided to have this package in the first place. So call us today to schedule your free strategy session and learn about what discounts and bonuses that we have in place. With that, let's go back and answer a couple of more questions. Steffi, do we have a couple more questions?
Yeah, there's a follow-up here from Michael. Is funding bigger than sales?
And again, Michael, that depends on the business. For some businesses, the right thing to do is we don't want to do anything at all until we have proper funding. A classic example that I've used several times is building an airport. Doesn't make any sense to go out there and stick your shovel in the ground and start digging holes for runways and for terminal buildings and all that until you have all your funding in place, because you're just wasting your time. There are some companies like that as well. For example, a large medical device company. It takes a long time and it takes a lot of money to bring a medical device to market. And you can do a few things, to help, implement the lean startup methodology, talk to people who you think might be your potential clients, etc. But it doesn't make any sense to start engineering the product and spending $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 on engineering the product, until you have all of the funds necessary to at least complete the next phase of your growth. So in those cases, funding absolutely might be the most important thing. If you have adequate funds in place and if you have the capability to deliver a product or a service, then the most important thing that you can possibly do is probably selling, is probably engaging with the marketplace and getting people to actually write you a check for the products and services that you have to have, because that's the way you learn the most, is by engaging in the marketplace. And by the way, you learn a lot when you ask people questions, but you learn a lot more when you actually try to sell them product, because they'll give you free advice and free answers all day long, but when they have to put their money where their mouth is, then you really learn what price they consider to be effective and fair, and you really learn what value it is that they see in your products and services and what they're willing to pay. So in some cases it's sales, in some cases it's funding. It depends on where you are in the phase of growth of your business and what goals you have for the next 90 days. Thanks for the follow-up question. Steffi, next one.
All righty. Next question. I plan to stay pretty small, so do I still need a business plan?
I'm going to answer that in a couple of ways. Again, business plan to me, and the way I use that term is with a formal document that's like 30, 40, 50 pages long. If for example, an investor or a potential business partner says, send me your business plan, That's what they're talking about. They're talking about a formal document, hopefully well polished, hopefully complete, that fully describes the business where it is today, where you intend to grow, your financial projections, your team, your competition, the market, the industry, and all of those different things that go into a formal investor-grade business plan. So if you're not seeking partners for your business, and if you're not seeking funding for your business, you might not need a formal, polished business plan. However, I will tell you that creating a business plan really facilitates thinking it through. When you think about what market am I serving and what is my value and who is my competition and where am I going to make my money, when you think through the business model by using the process of writing a business plan, I'm convinced that you're going to have a stronger business. At a minimum, you need a growth plan and a growth strategy. I've got people that I'm working with right now today that don't have a strategy, that they're very, very impulsive. They're visionary, they're creative. They have shiny object syndrome. And the next speaker that they're listening to or the next phone call that they get might cause them to completely switch directions and go in a different direction. And it's really, really tough to be cost effective and efficient and productive and grow a business if you are impulsive. That's why we want you to stay focused. That is why we say get clear on what your direction is. And then we want you to stay focused on that direction, typically with an accountability partner, a coach, a mentor, a consultant on your team who will help you stay focused. And by the way, if you reward that person on your team for accomplishing the goals of your business, if somehow their compensation plan is leveraged on you achieving your goals, they are absolutely going to help you stay focused because they got money riding on it. That's why we pay salespeople commissions, because we want them to stay focused on getting the job done, which in their case is selling stuff, of making quota. So if you can have somebody on your team and you can reward them appropriately for them helping you meet your company's goals, then you've done a great job as a leader. So, I strongly encourage you to have a leveraged compensation plan, not only for people on your team, but for yourself as well. Reward yourself whenever you meet your company goals. Take yourself out to dinner, buy yourself a little trinket of some kind. If it's a really great accomplishment, take yourself to Maui for a week. Do something, give yourself the incentive to stay focused. Hopefully that was helpful there. Steffi, got any more questions?
Yep, here we go. What is the biggest difference between an intentional and a transitional microbusiness?
Well, I think we certainly covered a lot of the differences. So let me see if I can sum them up into the single business. And I think it's the vision of the business owner. For some people, they really just want to create a job. I just want to have $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, $70,000, $30,000 a year in income. I just want to do my own thing. I want to be in control. I want to have the lifestyle that I want. And their vision is focused on a particular lifestyle and a particular income level. And they can have an intentional micro business and successfully do that. But if the vision is really big, I want to make $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion. I want to help 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 1 million people. It's the vision that means that I cannot stay a micro business. I have to have a big business, not just a small business, but I have to have a very big business in order for my vision to be realized in this physical reality. So that, I think, is the number one difference in between an intentional micro business and a transitional micro business. It is the vision and the passion of the business owner towards creating something that's really huge or creating something that is sustainable and small and serves them in the way that they want to be served. That makes sense? I hope so. We got time for, I think, maybe one more question if we have one. What do you got,
Okay.
Steffi?
Why are there so many small businesses and micro businesses?
I think I'm going to say a couple of reasons for that. There's a whole bunch of micro businesses out there because they struggle in becoming a larger business. There are a lot of small business owners and micro business owners that get stuck on 2 or 3 or 5 employees, and they just can't seem to grow any more than that. I've had more than one client that grew to 6 or 7 employees and hit what I call an inflection point in the business, which means that's a point where you have to change a lot of stuff in order to be successful when you grow larger. And I've seen them grow from 6 to 12 and then fall back to 8, and then grow up to 10 employees and then fall back to 6. Some of that is seasonality, some of that is competitive pressures, but a lot of that is the mindset and the capability of the business owner. Because when you go, for example, from 6 to 10 employees, typically you're not able to micromanage every single one of those employees yourself. Typically, that's the point of time that you introduce some mid-level management, and you have one of those people that is reporting to you have people reporting to them. And that's a totally different mindset. Managing managers is different than giving orders and micromanaging people who jump when you say jump. So it takes a lot different mindset in order to do that. So one of the biggest challenges is in actually making the leap from a micro business to a large business. Sometimes that's the mindset and the capability of the business owner. Sometimes it's the realities of the market. We just can't sell any more pizza than we got right now. I got one pizza oven. I got one pizza shop. My business is always full, and opening up a second location is going to cost too much money, so I'm just going to stay a small business. So there are lots of different pressures that are on us that make it difficult to leap from one level of performance to another. As it turns out, growing a business is not like walking up a ramp. It's more like jumping up a stairway, that there are things that you have to do, investments that you have to make, people that you have to hire in order to get that to that next level of business performance. And it always involves some risk and some investment in that. So that's one way of saying of why do we have so many small businesses, and it's because you got a whole bunch of people out there that can't grow any bigger or don't know how to grow any bigger. But the other way, I think I'll answer that question, is it's the American dream. Here in the United States, we make it very easy, very, very easy for somebody to raise up their hand and say, I want to start a small business. When I was living in Colorado, you could go online for $50 and declare your limited liability corporation. You could go online and for $10 you could have a trade name or a doing business as a DBA. It didn't cost much at all. It didn't take any time at all. And we really make it very easy for people to start a business without the proper training and without the proper education. And you can do that anytime. You can sign up to be a member of a network marketing opportunity, a multi-level marketing opportunity. You can go to the local florist and buy 20 roses and go stand by the street corner and sell them for $1 each. It's very, very easy for people to go into business, and oh my goodness, that is the American dream. I'm going to start a business. We're going to start small. People are going to love us. We're going to sell a lot. I'm going to hire somebody. Then I'm going to hire 2 or 3 more. Then I'm going to move into an office space. Then I'm going to get a company car. Then, and before you know it, I'm going to be sitting in the office smoking cigars and drinking scotch and reveling in my $1 million worth of income every year. Sometimes it happens. A lot of times it's a lot tougher than that. But the American dream is that we can do that. Each and every one of us, and certainly the people listening to this, have probably already done that. They probably already jumped into their own business because they had the opportunity to do that. Now the challenge is, how do we make that right for us? How do we create a profitable, sustainable, and perhaps scalable business out of where we are today and the efforts that we've put in so far. And, who do I get on my team to help me do that? Well, consider us. Let me throw my hat into the ring. The No BS Business Growth Package is designed to help you get very clear on what you want to accomplish, why you want to accomplish it, and how you are going to get there, and designed on helping you stay focused so that you can build the business of your dreams, whether that be a micro business or a very large business. We love to support you in whatever that happens to be. And with that, I'm going to wish you all a fantastic day until we meet again, perhaps next week. This is Paul Hoyt and Stephanie May wishing you a marvelous and most prosperous day. Bye-bye.